quarterback who can walk and chew gum at the same time, I would think people in Chicago would be happy because I know the history of quarterback in that city.
Well, I loved him at Vanderbilt because, I mean, he made Vanderbilt somewhat relevant. He was a very tough player. He seemed like it's funny because his demeanor was a cool thing in college. Like, man, look how low-key he is and cool. Kind of like Sam Darnold of USC now. Mm-hmm. And then, he went to Denver for, 3 years. He was pretty good in Denver. His third year in Denver, he threw 25 touchdowns, 18 picks, and he had 4,500 yards. That's a big season. He was 25 years old. In the offseason, he goes to the Bears. He's 25 and a half, 26 years old. I remember the day the Bears got him. People, celebrity Bear fans like Vince Vaughn was tweeting, "Oh my Lord, I can't believe it." Everyone's tweeting. I don't know if it's tweeting, but like celebrating. I saw him post stuff. And all my Bear friends were like, we finally got a big-armed quarterback for this cold weather city. This guy that they still liked from Vandy. He had done some good things in Denver. And his first year with the Bears at 26 years old, 27 touchdowns, great, 26 picks. 3,700 yards. He does enough to keep you loving him and enough to keep you hating him. And that's what the initial love-hate relationship was with Cutler.
To me, the moment that really summed him up in Chicago was the NFC Championship game against Green Bay. He got hurt, and people were wondering, was he significantly hurt? And then Caleb Haney was in there fighting for his life, really trying to bring the Bears against a good Packers team.
Sure.
And Cutler had his head down, right? And everyone was criticizing that he didn't look into it. And that sort of I don't remember if it was before or after, but led to all these problems with his body language throughout the years. What do you remember about that game in specific?
Well, that was 2010. He's 10-5 on the year as a starter. He has nice numbers, 23 touchdowns. He got his interceptions down. They go to the playoffs. He's out of the game. Caleb Haney's in. And I think what happened as far as Bears fans and most sports fans, you usually see the backup injured quarterback. If he's not, getting treatment in the back or, on a table somewhere, if he's on the sidelines, he's up with the assistant coach or the quarterback coach or with the other quarterbacks or the head coach with a headset on, calling things in, doing something, not just shutting it down in a game that was still competitive. It made him seem like a powder. I think I heard him more nationally than locally. I think Bears fans in 2010 were still pro Cutler because he was 10-5 that year as a starter. And then as it went the next few years, the touchdowns went down, his more lethargic style. He also got credit for being tough when they lost their offensive line, but it was always like he would do something to make you love him again or respect his game again, and then he'd have 4 games where he just didn't seem like he wanted to be there.
I think you bring up a great point, though. That offensive line at points was the worst in the league.
Brutal.
So it was sort of a tough situation. I feel like, remember they changed from Lovey. I feel like a lot of things went wrong in Chicago and got put on Jay Cutler that weren't necessarily his fault. I mean, I know towards the end it really fell apart, but I thought he was maybe a little overly criticized. Yeah,
I think that's fair because he's criticized for his demeanor. I remember even when he changed his hair from the bangs to like GQ, they criticized that. The problem is when somebody makes $20 million and doesn't do much to help the team. I think a lot of people think that he did as much to hurt the Bears as to help them game to game. There was a couple years ago, I think it was 2014, the Bears had Forte, Martellus Bennett, Alshon Jeffrey, Brandon Marshall. I mean, he had everything, and he had a nice offensive line. They were decent. And he could, I mean, I think that team, he was 5-10 as a starter that year. 28 touchdowns, but they were 5-10. Defense was down, but...
Yeah. Coaching turmoil, though. I mean, they tried out Mark Trestman, my old buddy from the CFL. Didn't work out. If you change coaches a lot and it doesn't stick, the quarterback, I guess, takes the blame, but that was a tough situation.
Well, now let me ask you this, after you think about this through the break. If you're a Miami Dolphins fan, you should be expecting what this coming up in year? Save it, Perloff?
I can't save it. I want to go right now, Paulie.
Or take your calls as well, 855-323-4622. Chopping it up, Sports Radio, NBC Sports Network. We are the Leisuremen. Follow us all week on Twitter, at the Leisuremen on Twitter. If you don't know the show, we've been on here about, Pearl, a year and a half on NBC Sports Radio?
About that. Feels like we just started, man, and time flies.
Because of our lack of development or just because we're having such a good time?
A little from column A, a little from column B.
Well, we talk about everything. We talk sports, we talk lifestyle, food, beer, women, money, vacations. We took a couple of vacations we'll get to in a little bit, recommending vacation spots. You right now are doing some real estate work. You're looking at Jay Cutler's Nashville mansion.
Yeah, which is weird. I don't understand the timing of this. It could just be a random mansion that the New York Post assigned to him because it's from before he moved. But this is ridiculous. There's an indoor tetherball court. There's a full game room, full movie theater, gorgeous pool. You said you could live like a king in Nashville. I'm just curious. I always see them in L.A., though. Why would they choose Nashville?
Well, Nashville is a very popular town. It's one of the higher growth cities over the past decade. Some people down in Nashville I've talked to are actually quite upset by it. Our buddy Paul Kaharski, who is down there at the Nashville radio station, he says there's just high-rises going up and the prices are going up and it's getting too hot. It's a great town for industry, electronics. A lot of car companies have their headquarters down there. Great food town, great music town, social life. Also, Tennessee state sales tax, none. You get to keep a lot more of your dough if you live down in Nashville. So before we get back to Jay Cutler and going to Miami and what Miami expects, I'm going to ask you, let's say Perloff, for some reason, you and your wife made enough money at your age of in the early 40s to retire. And your wife said, "Hun, let's pick a place to retire, not New York City, away from New York City. One place to stay for the rest of your life, you pick." And funds were not an issue. Where would you go?
Well, New York
One
City
place.
would be my first choice. New York's out, though.
New York is
because New
completely
York's
out.
a great town to retire in. A lot of old people live there. I think my second favorite city, if money was not a concern, would be San Francisco on the sunny side of the bay. Because it's so nice out there. You get if you live in the right place, you can get the weather, you can get the outdoors, you can get the views. The only thing is you can't afford to live there normally, and you're saying the expense is no issue. So
No issue. You can live anywhere in America for the rest of your life.
I think New York would be my number one, but I think after that it'd be the Bay Area. Same question to you.
I was thinking about this during the break as I was getting ready to ask you, and this is a tough one because people are going to roll their eyes. I like Burlington, Vermont a lot. I do like cold weather. I don't really like hot weather at all. And once it gets past 75, I'm out. Skiing, snowboarding, all that kind of stuff, beer. Burlington, Vermont's a fantastic city. There's lakes, there's snow skiing all around there. That's my pick if I had to pick one.
Wow, it's pretty cold. That's a little against the grain.
It's real cold and very snowy.
Yeah, and there's a long spring there, if you know what I mean.
There's a short summer
from March. Yeah, you better not miss your 3 days to lie out there. That's a good choice. So I love Burlington. I think everyone loves Burlington. So, but it's kind of odd. Most people would pick Miami or LA, and here we are picking San Francisco and Burlington. Great.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, LA doesn't seem like a retirement spot. It seems like a town that's kind of tough to retire in. If you want to drive around anywhere, it's a big pain in the butt. I think you want to ease up your life when you retire.
Yeah, you know what would be nice? If I had to do Florida, definitely the west coast of Florida over the east coast of Florida.
My mother for about 20 years. My mother had a place in Naples, Florida. I'm not big on Florida, but Naples is kind of this oasis on the west coast of Florida that's really cool.
Yeah, I'm planning ahead to my winter break. I'm going to the west coast of Florida with my wife's family, and I haven't been in a long time, and I really, really enjoy it. I find the east coast a little bit like New York down south in the sense that it's sort of busy. Like you said, you want to go someplace that's nice and relaxing, and I don't really find Miami that.
Yeah, Jay Cutler. Well, now the Miami Dolphin fans, they're getting a guy who's still in his prime. What that prime is the question. What are they getting? Miami Dolphins are competitive, not a threatening team, but a competitive team.
Well, that's the thing about Miami. They're pinned in by New England. I don't care if you have Jay Cutler, Ryan Tannehill, Dan Fouts at quarterback. They're never going to really compete for the division, right? I mean,
okay, then why spend $10 million on a backup quarterback when you could put in? Don't they have Matt Moore on that team still, or someone like that? They could pop in. He could do a serviceable job for very little money, and if he stinks, they get a high draft pick.
Well, remember they were in the playoffs last year, and Tannehill, his knee, the same knee, was hurt, And they went to Matt Moore, and they were not threatening. They faced a pretty bad Steelers defense and did not do much with Matt Moore. And he got popped. Remember, he got popped? It was either Bud Dupree or somebody just viciously took him out. He's not a big dude, so he's a bit of a health risk in himself. So I think you needed some stability there. We'll see, by the way. Tannehill might opt for no surgery and be back. That seems like a very dangerous situation. But I think that the upside with Cutler is not that dissimilar than the upside with Ryan Tannehill. I'm not sure that Ryan Tannehill is that much of a better quarterback than Jay Cutler.
They kind of remind me of each other. Sometimes their numbers are good, but they don't feel like the winners.
Yeah, they feel like 10-6 is their sort of upside, right?
Ceiling.
You don't see a Ryan Tannehill team going 14-2. There were reports that he was looking really good, getting really comfortable in this offense, but those are typical training camp reports. So to me, I feel like you're almost a somewhat even swap. The real concern I have is, does Jay Cutler still love football? Does he want to be out there? And also, too, is there a sort of negativity with Jay Cutler, or is that sort of some of the pressure of being in Chicago?
Right. I think there's going to be positivity initially because, that makes him – I guess that makes him more competitive. I don't know. Let me ask you another question. If you're Matt Patricia, the defensive coordinator of the New England Patriots, would you rather face Jay Cutler in an important game? Let's say you needed it for home field advantage, or Ryan Tannehill.
In this situation, definitely Jay Cutler, because Cutler's coming in without an offseason. Probably got a little soft. We saw some pictures of him naked.
He's notorious for giving up picks.
Yeah.
And Tannehill isn't.
Yeah. No, I definitely would probably rather face Cutler. But I got to tell you, the Patriots were not scared of Ryan Tannehill. That is not a quarterback who struck fear into the heart of Matt Patricia. I don't think he cares about any of those, about the Dolphins at all. I think he's more concerned with the Steelers right now, if anyone. He's more concerned about 19-0 probably right now. So I don't even know if it's a relevant question.
I got two more Cutler questions. He had a really good gig at Fox as an analyst with no experience. Do you think they're holding his place for after this 1 year in Miami? Was he able to pull that off?
I think so, because there was a bidding war over Cutler. He's supposed to be real personable, and I've heard that he was great in his tryouts for the booth, and he could really talk football, which is not that surprising. But think about it. Players who come off as malcontents sometimes make great broadcasters. What was it? Sterling Sharp never spoke to anyone while he was a player. He was the most famous bad mood guy in the locker room, and then he will never shut up on TV. There are other guys, too, who I don't want to get into names, who are known as surly players who then talk a lot on TV. So I don't think the two necessarily translate. And I'll bet you Cutler, some people think Cutler's a pretty good bro. Like some people think he's a fun guy to hang out with. I've heard that. Now, you also hear the negative things, but
I stand
like
corrected. The LaDainian Tomlinson bust, Hall of Fame bust, is nice. The Terrell Davis is spot on. I may have to apologize. There's a couple of these that are better than I expected. The Kurt Warner one's not working. The Kurt Warner Hall of Fame bust is not working. The Terrell Davis is nice, and LaDainian Tomlinson is solid.
Now, how much did you actually watch of this, Paulie?
I peeked in and out, not a lot. By the way, the speech is just too long. I mean, if I knew the speeches were 10 minutes, I could watch them.
How about Jerry? Did you see anything from Jerry Jones?
I watched the first 5 minutes of his. I actually found it interesting that his wife presented him. I thought that was real unique for that. I watched. She gave a pretty brief speech, but that was unique.
I heard, Brenda Warner did too. I heard before this year, there were only two wives who ever introduced people, and then there were two this year, Jerry Jones and Kurt Warner. So it's a new trend. But doesn't that ruin it for everybody after this? Now, if you don't pick your wife, you're dead.
You look like a jerk. And by the way, Morton Anderson, the kicker, goes in the Hall of Fame. Instead, they should have had a bust of his foot. What do you think about that instead of his head?
Actually looking, but he's got this great mid-'80s part down the middle that is priceless. So
it's gold. How do you feather hair on a Browns bust? It's well
feathered.
Done.
Oh my gosh, that guy is brilliant. Whoever did that.
All right, coming up next, it's how was your weekend on the Leisuremen, and then I have a Jay Cutler house-related question for you, Perloff, that I'm going to let you think about during the break. Let's say you have a mansion. Let's say again you have unlimited funds. And your wife says, "Hey, you could do anything you want to this big old house we're going to buy." What's the one thing that you would have done to your house that's kind of like, wow, you're going there, you're going somewhere different? Stick around. We're the Leisuremen, 855-323-4622, NBC Sports Radio.
Perloff and Pabst here on the Leisuremen on NBC Sports Radio. Talking a little Jay Cutler. Give us a call. Did you like the signing for the Miami Dolphins? 855-323-4NBC. Ryan Tannehill. Bad news this week. Now, Paulie, it looked good on Thursday. There was a glimmer of hope for Dolphins fans where everything was structurally okay. And then I guess it wasn't structurally okay because Ryan Tannehill went south over the weekend.